Yo. Today essentially marks, I guess, the official beginning of me working on the second Celestis album. I've spent the morning digging through old hard drives and trying to recover the various stems and project files and just whatever I could from all the various track projects over the years, because I've been sitting on a lot of this stuff for pretty well over a decade, some even longer. And the trick there is that a lot of the, I don't use a lot of the same software anymore. Even my amp rig is different. And so basically I'm going to have to re-record a lot of it from scratch and stuff. But what's going to be a massive time saver is being able to reuse the MIDI files. So for things like drums or whatever, because I had very meticulously programmed them back in the day, and I'd rather not have to redo all that stuff from scratch again. So I salvaged as much as I could and then prepared an Ableton session here. And so the first thing that I did was I loaded in the original drum track, and when you open it up, you're like, ugh, look at all this stuff. So that's what I mean when I say that I'm stoked that I don't have to reprogram all of this, like all these various little fills and everything else. All of that wonderful stuff. Now I did, some of the MIDI maps were a little bit off, so I did have to move some of these, like for example, what once was some of these cymbal tracks in this newer version of Steven Slate drums. Some of the mapping is a little bit different, so I kind of had to move some stuff around, but this is the kit that I'm using. Just for now as a placeholder, I may change it later. But yeah, and then the other thing I did was I imported the bass track. What I'm going to have to do for this particular tune is I'm going to have to re-record all the guitar parts because I'm now using a different tuning and a different amp rig and everything else. For now, I'm hoping I don't have to re-record the bass track, but yeah, because originally it was in drop C sharp. And for now, I just dumped it into Ableton and transposed it by a semitone down because it's actually going to be in drop C. And yeah, I'm really hoping that it actually pans out okay. But worst case scenario, if it doesn't, I'll just rent a bass and tune it accordingly and do what I got to do to make it happen or whatever. But for now, I'll just work with this. A bit of a side note, this tune in particular is called The Catalyst. It's off of the original Celestis album from 2013, Aurora. It's a pretty heavy, chuggy tune. I chose to start with it just because from a production standpoint, it's fairly simple. There's not a lot of different progressive elements in it. There's not all these different instruments, coming in and out or anything. It's basically pretty straightforward, kind of balls to the wall. And yeah, just smashing drums, bass track, kind of a wall of growly vocals and stuff. I figured it would be a good way to kind of get my feet wet again in the metal production realm. And maybe by the end of it, I might even create a template and just kind of use that as a starting point for the subsequent tracks and stuff. But and as well, the reason why I'm choosing to bring back a track from the first album was because I figured I kind of want to go back and take the cream of the crop and basically take all of my all-time favorites and sort of rehash them, recreate them, and let them sort of shine in a new light in full glory, I guess. But there are also going to be, most of the album is going to be comprised of new tracks that weren't at all featured on the previous one. And by new tracks, I mean stuff that I wrote 10 years ago, but, new to everybody else kind of thing. So anyway, I got the bass and drums thing kind of dialed in. It's a good starting point. So next I'm going to grab the old guitar over there. Well, for one, I'm going to have to practice and remember all the riffs. Should be kind of like riding a bike. But once I get that sorted out, I'll probably hit record and track all the stuff and see if I can get the guitars done before the end of the day. But for now, it sounds like this. So a handful of hours later, all the guitar layers for the Catalyst are recorded, and we got a basic guitar mix going here. From here on out, the next step would probably be to see if I can add in the originally recorded vocals and see if they fit with this production, or I might opt to re-record them at a later date as well. Now I can go in and start mixing the rest of the instruments, figuring out how I'm going to mix all the drums, separate them all into their respective kick, snare, and overhead, and tom tracks and all that stuff, and see how I want to process them all, see about actually properly processing the bass, and then at that point choosing whether I want to keep the original track or re-record that as well. Yeah, it's been a pretty productive day, and I guess we'll see where it goes from here. Catch you next time.